guys, this is Joakim Sundén. Pretty close.
Yeah, good enough. Good enough.
Better
than most.
Better than most. Okay, so 2 things about Joakim that you should know. First of all, he's the co-author of one of the best books on Kanban that I've written with Marcus Hammerberg called Kanban in Action. I'm not sure why this isn't the Kanban Bible. It certainly should be, because I think that helped me so much when I was trying to get from Scrum into Kanban and get my head around, it's not just the same thing. It really isn't. Great book. And the other thing is, I used to have this allergic reaction to the word Spotify model. I'd sort of like break out in red spots or want to hit people and stuff, because you'd all these, I was going to use a bad word. You've all these consultants running around the place selling the Spotify model. And when I started at TechTalk, my boss offered me the chance to go and listen to Joakim talking about Agile at Scale based around Spotify. And it was brilliant, because I was cured of my allergy to the Spotify model, because Joakim did a great job of explaining to me, or explained to us in the course, that there was just so much, the culture that was behind. It was a snapshot. This model was just a snapshot of a point in time. And the whole culture that was involved in getting there and going past it was super interesting, and was way more than anything you're ever going to read out of the word tribe or guild. So that's why I really find the stuff that Joakim talks about super interesting. And I will now hand over to you, at least on my screen over here. Joakim. Okay. I'll drop back in at the end, Joakim, when we're wrapping up. Okay.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and thanks for inviting me and having me again at this conference. It's sad it could be in person, but hey, inspect, adapt, and survive, right? So I guess I am now one of those consultants selling the Spotify model then, but not exactly. So I'm now at Crisp. It's a little bit about Crisp. This is me. So I'm a consultant at Crisp, but I used to spend 6 years, 7 years almost at Spotify, employed as an Agile coach. These are some of my other clients, the book that Robert mentioned. And yeah, maybe you noticed that many of us who worked at Spotify and were part of establishing this new approach to Agile at Scale started getting concerned about the copying and pasting of it, and are people really going to get it to work? And we started doing talks like, there is no Spotify model, and you can do better than the Spotify model. But still, out in the big world, like thousands of companies are using the Spotify model. So let's stop kidding ourselves and actually look at, okay, what are they doing? What does it mean to apply the Spotify model? And I got the chance to do just that after leaving Spotify when I started working at a company. And this talk will actually be a lot of lessons based on this journey that I helped the company with, which was Telenor in Sweden, the Agile transformation journey that really kicked off in 2018. And I will structure the talk based on this story, but during that story, I will also point out some things we did really well, but also point out some other good things that I wish we had done better. And from work with other clients, for example, I've done a bunch of assessments for transformations and advisory roles. I've done more than 30 Agile Scale inspired by Spotify, public and in-house courses, and follow-up workshops and conversations with many companies and people who are already using the Spotify model or want to. Robert being one of the attendees at one course in Vienna. Experience from my colleagues. I have a bunch of great colleagues who are having similar experiences. Books, articles, blogs, conferences, conversations, and so on. Of course, working as I did and presenting about Spotify at conferences during my time there, I've gotten into a lot of conversations and so on around this topic. And I've chosen to organize these lessons, as I call them, around 2 parts, really. One is more how we initiated and worked with the change journey. And this will be more general Agile transformation or large-scale change topics, which you can find a lot of in Kotter's classic 8 steps, Beyond Performance 2.0, which is my one of my new favorite books by McKinsey consultants, actually, who have lots of experience in this area. And then more into what actually changed in the organization and way of working. What did we do then with this change? Things like tribes, squads, chapters, and aligned autonomy, which is how do we empower and leverage autonomy with teams and people, but still keep some kind of alignment and direction. So it started when I got a call from the CTO, who had assumed the interim role of CIO, as the CIO just couldn't take it anymore, had stepped down, and he said to me, well, I knew it was bad, but I just didn't understand how bad it was. There are too many coordinators, very few engineers. Most of development was outsourced, offshored even to India. Replanning upon replanning, a really unhealthy organization. They did part of the one division had made the McKinsey Organizational Health Index test and scored bottom quartile, actually. So it felt really unhealthy. And no idea what's being developed, when will it be done, no transparency, things are taking forever. And also the sound of Google is coming. And if you're in telco, you might know that Google is reaching out to a lot of telcos and just saying, hey, just give us 3 APIs really, and to your really expensive infrastructure investments, and we'll just take care of the customer for you. You can still deliver the hardware or the network. So yeah. And a point here is, one reason why I actually took this assignment was that there is a sense of urgency, and this is familiar to many of you who have been part of agile transformations or read about change. Having this, burning platform or sense of we have to do something, or we will be toast. Or at least having proactive leadership or a strong sense of shared purpose of we need to be going somewhere. It can be a future crisis, so to speak. Ideally, you'll strike the balance between, yeah, maybe we have to change somewhere soon out there in the future, which might not be the right driver. But on the other hand, if you're getting too much in, we have to do this or die, you might not be able to make really good choices. So anyway, they decided that we need to do something big, and they decided to bring in expert help. And this is another lesson, I think. You should really do that. The saying, it's hard to be a prophet in your own land. Or the English expression, familiarity breeds contempt. It can be hard to drive change when you're part of the old world. And also, you probably, because you're not an agile company, you probably don't have a lot of agile competence and agile experience, at least not in leading positions. So, but there's also a risk here of being too dependent on the external help. You need to start developing your own capabilities too. And always when I'm brought in to help a company, I really try to focus on pairing up with driving things together with employees, and from an early stage focus on how can we establish your own capability of doing this. It's so easy, especially when there's urgency, to just as a consultant go in and okay, I'll just do it, I'll just run it, I'll just facilitate this big room planning, I'll just keep doing it, and then as you leave, you won't have really left them with a lot to do. So also involve a broad coalition. Realize that it's not just IT that's involved in making a transformation, and you can't just view it as a project. You need to take a long-term orientation. And as you can see from Beyond Performance 2.0, change programs whose aspiration phase is characterized by an organization-wide collaborative effort are much more likely to succeed, and allowing staff to contribute to planning and the initiatives they will be involved in is also much more likely to be considered successful. And we really did this. We involved people from networks, IT, consumer, business, all parts of the organization. We ran workshops for weeks and months, trying to establish what this change needs to be about. And as well, it's said that Einstein is the originator of this quote: "If I had only 1 hour to save the world, I would spend 55 minutes defining the problem and only 5 minutes finding the solution." Like any other good famous quote, there's it's not sure. It's probable that Einstein actually never said that, but it's a good one anyway. So really trying to understand, where are we? What is the problem? So we interviewed people, we workshopped in big groups, really trying to understand what's wrong with it today, and how did we get here. We tried to summarize that in a good picture on one PowerPoint picture, really, and started towing that around in the organization and asking people to come with complementary information and add to the picture and adjust it. And then, from having understood the problem enough, we started developing a vision and principles iteratively. You don't have to read all of these things; they're more used to illustrate the point. We had, starting from, okay, where do we really want to be? What does it look like when we're there? How can we make it concrete? What is it that we're striving for? And of course, in many changes, and this was no exception, there's already an idea on what's the solution, hence the agile transformation to start with. They already have an idea, that's what they wanted, right? And there's no harm in that, but you need to keep tying it back to, but why, and what do we want to get out of it? And as you can see again from Beyond Performance 2.0, when 3,000 executives were asked, if your company undertook the change program again, what would you do differently? 48% picked set clearer targets. And also, change programs with clearly defined aspirations for performance and organizational health are 3 times more likely to succeed than when neither is defined. And also, really pointing out iteratively, if you look at these Kotter 8 steps of change and other change frameworks, it looks like it's sequential steps that you're following. But as I said, you already have an idea what the solution is when you're asking when you're starting the initiative. So you need to work iteratively with these things. This is what we believe it is, and then we invited other people to come with feedback, and also when it goes from what's the vision and the goals at the top level of the company, then take it down to the next one and see, okay, given that intent, and let's keep it as broad and goal-oriented as possible, why we're doing this, what are some specific context-depending goals and targets on your level of the organization, and what are some activities based on that understanding that you want to do. And this is so old, but still, Kotter is famous for saying, you typically under-communicate the vision by a factor of 10. And this is still, so many companies fail with this, what should be a pretty simple thing to do. So that's why I think it's really worth mentioning. And then, okay, we understand where we are, and we're constantly iteratively increasing our understanding of it, and we know where we're going, again, also iterating. But how do we get there? What are we supposed to do? I really like from the book Switch, where the Heath brothers used the concept of find the bright spots. And it's about looking at, you're probably doing some really good things already. How can we build on these strengths, these bright spots, and not just look at problems, but actually when it's working, what does it look like? And that's also effective in getting people on board who might think that, well, maybe that works at Spotify, but does it really work for our old and very special company. So we saw that they had a long journey of using agile teams in places, and I see that this is the case for many organizations I meet. There are already islands of agile people working in agile teams, agile initiatives, and so on. They had started using a big visualization Kanban board for their intricate project planning. One department has started doing big room planning, or what's called PI planning in SAFe, where everyone gets together for a full day or two and just plan the next quarter or so. We already had some agile teams in digital channels who had started converging line organizations on value streams. Instead of having one business who order things of a separate organization, they had started converging these two, which is kind of one of the key concepts of the Spotify tribe model. So the next step was to understand then, okay, broadly, how do we want to be organized? Because one of the goals was customer focus and being able to deliver the right thing to the customer fast. We wanted to be organized around value streams. And my advice here is try to be pragmatic about the tribes or the agile release trains or whatever concept you have of team of teams that's like bigger than one team, because it's I've seen many organizations get stuck in first just not understanding what a value stream is and believing that each team or each team of teams should be organized around a value stream. No, that's not how it's supposed to work. If you can pull it off, great. But if you're transforming from a very system component-oriented IT to that, that's going to be such a big step that you will probably get it wrong or give up. So more being pragmatic around, okay, how can we organize ourselves around some key missions that we believe that we need to be going into in a way that we have as few dependencies as possible to other tribes or trains. And you can test that by running your bigger initiatives or projects or so on that you have in the pipeline or that's already going on and see if they're still hitting all of the tribes you constructed. Maybe you haven't come up with the right solution. But you're never going to get the perfect by value stream solution. So don't overdo it. Just get something up and running, have a clear hypothesis, idea on why do we think this is the working setup and how will we know if it is? What questions will we run around with every 3 weeks or every month to ask, did we actually get it right? And how do we mitigate it if we're not getting there? And this is connected to taking a long-term orientation and changing iteratively. To make sure that because some organizations they spend a lot of time in analysis phase to figure out what's the blueprint going to be for our organization, and then do a big reorganization, and then they don't even try to find out did we actually get it right. If someone says I don't think we got it right, then it's like, oh no, sit down, calm. We've just made a big change. Let's give this a chance. Let's not change anything for a couple of years. No, you have to have the change governance to constantly review. Are we doing the right thing? Did we get it right? And if not, how can we change it? So we had clearly stated in all the communication material, this is a journey. It will take time. Effects will show over time. And again, if you run this as a project where you think like, oh, now we've done the reorganization, we've given people agile training in the new roles, done. Then you're in for a surprise because you're very likely to fail. These things take time, and that's also an advice of some people believe that if we just hire some great trainers or maybe external agile coaches and they can teach us and then we'll just do the rest. No, you have to work year and year and year. I mean, Spotify had 50 agile coaches when I left. They still have a bunch of agile coaches. And if you're using the Spotify model, well, that's not a lot of stuff published around the Spotify model. There is, of course, shameless sales plug. My course, Agile at Scale, inspired by Spotify, that I've been running through TechTalk, and we're talking about doing it again. We'll see. But then there are some white papers, some videos compared to SAFe, Less, Scrum at Scale, the Lean Enterprise book by Jess Humble and others. There's so much material that's also very much suited for how do we get from the kind of bureaucratic hierarchical organization that we are to something more like Spotify's tribes and squads. There are things like shared services, lean portfolio management, capacity allocation, how to set up and run an agile center of excellence, a lot of gold nuggets, but view it as a toolbox approach. What I think is wrong, but that's a topic for another talk, with SAFe and these frameworks is that it's how you implement it. It's kind of the old, rational unified process where, oh, we better take everything. You're supposed to adapt it, but you can't go. No one can blame us for doing all of the stuff. But if we start removing things or choosing things, then I'm responsible, right? And this is again something I often see being done wrong. You should respect and leverage the legacy that's already in place in the organization. There's a big chance that HR and others who have owned things like training, leadership profiles, how you work with, how you evaluate co-workers' performance, training, values, culture. They've been working with this for years. And it's likely that a lot of this is very modern and agile values and things to build on. It's just that in practice it might not have been used in that way. So this is an excellent chance to partner up with them and explain. If let's say you're introducing SAFe, or let's say that you're introducing Spotify and talk about servant leadership the way Spotify uses it. And you get the question, how is this related to our leadership style here at our company? I don't know. I have no idea. Like if you just can connect those dots, then you can decrease the cognitive overload of people and actually use it to an advantage to connect them. And also get HR as an early partner is gold, because if you're not lucky, you might end up in the other position, which can be really bad for your agile transformation. Okay, so now I'm transitioning a little bit more to what we actually did, which there's an overlap in how and what, of course, but we established tribes focused around missions, clear missions. So this tribe is all about improving the business to business division, or the business to business business, and this is consumer, and ideally you can get to more narrow focused and so on. But remember, be pragmatic. As long as you can focus on what business mission do these squads that are involved in this tribe rally around? What do they share? And then what I think we were really successful in doing in this journey was having product owner tribe leads working together with IT tribe leads at the top of the tribe, so to speak. They have the tribe and the tribe's performance and health and well-being as a shared responsibility. But now the PO tribe lead is from the business. Someone high up in the business with authority and mandate and trust from their colleagues in the business to actually, be leading, making decisions, making choices within this area of the business. Of course, with one leg still in the business. And to a large extent, also having product owners from the business in the squads. And this is very different from other Spotify model implementations that I've seen, where you've basically just used, internal IT delivery organization, where in IT project managers or IT managers become product owners. You're still going to be stuck with the customer vendor anti-pattern of having the business, ordering stuff from IT. But actually getting the business into the tribes and into the squads means that you now own this together, and you own both discovery, what should we be doing, are we doing the right thing, and delivery, are we delivering it right together. Worst case scenario, as I used to joke, is that you get a hostage from the business side within IT, so now they can't shoot you down as often as they used to. Best scenario is that they now start to understand the possibilities, the opportunities of working in shorter increments iteratively, and starts changing the way the business is being run to take advantage of this. And we're going to get more into that later. But also, yeah, let's stop there. There's another big difference between a tribe and a department. So I'd say that a development that I've seen is, you start putting teams together and that have dependencies to each other, and start having scrum of scrums to at least coordinate and collaborate. Maybe a next step could be described as new safe implementation, where you at least get teams of teams around a release train. You still have probably the business separated, but prioritizing at least, have a master backlog and so on. And then the next step for me is to actually, we just need missions, goals, KPIs for this tribe. And then we can let them autonomously decide, because the business is in there. It's we collaborating. It's not us steering them through a backlog. But also the real question we ask with tribes is how do we increase our impact and still support people feeling like they have access, are part of establishing direction, are autonomous and trusted, and have a strong sense of relatedness. This is something my friend M. Campbell-Priddy wrote a book about in Tribal Unity, how she used these concepts and the Spotify tribe concept on agile release trains in SAFe. So this is regardless of you using the Spotify model or not, I should say. Like, how do we create a sense of team in a team of teams? It's like team building for a tribe. I can really recommend her book to learn more about these things. And then the Spotify model at its core, the culture is about empowering your people. In Spotify, we couldn't stop going on about the autonomous squad, autonomy. But again, not a lot has been written about it and how it's actually done outside of Spotify. But if you look to Marty Kagan, author of Empowered and also Inspired, he talks about empowered product teams. He actually makes the reference to Spotify, and his blog, the Silicon Valley Product Guild, is a gold mine to understand more how this works. Empowered is unfortunately not coming out until January next year, but his blog is basically writing the book through his blog. And the key concept, which has also been nicely illustrated by Jeff Patton, who we brought in early at Spotify to train all the product owners, is we have to go from a world of output, where we have dissatisfied users that have requirements and needs, which leads us to product and features enhancements, which leads to specification and requirements. This is just output. If we could, we so often start focusing on just the output and our ideas, but what we really need to be focusing on is the outcome, right? How can we actually maximize the outcome? Are we sure that we're getting happier users? Are we increasing the bottom line? Are people saying more nice things about our company than before we released this feature, and so on? And this is what you need to start focusing on to really be empowering people. Because this means that you can move from opinions, oh, we're working on X because someone said it's important and we're done when he's okay with it, to we're working on X because we think it's going to give impact Y, which matters to Telenor because of Z. And we're done when the metrics have moved. Or if you're too far from that world, at least have access to an internal stakeholder, or even better, an external customer who can give you immediate feedback as quickly as possible. This is what's really creating empowerment, because if you can't really have any means, no customer interaction, no data to understand if we're doing the right things, then someone else has to call the shots. Someone else have to make the guesses because there's so much money attached to it before we get to the result. And that decreases autonomy and empowerment. And to really accomplish this, product owners need to be collaborative leaders. You need to understand how to leverage the autonomy. How can we get to the sweet spot in the Venn diagram between valuable, usable, feasible? That's a successful product. This means engaging the teams in engineering together in finding out what should we be doing. And this in turn means that you really need to develop agile engineering skills and develop your team. At Spotify, at Telenor, we really try to say developers is our most important role, because this is where the things are being done. This is where we build. This is where we understand when the rubber meets the road. So we really need to invest in developing these skills. And this again means, okay, at the beginning at Telenor, we said, no, outsourcing is a key strategy. We're not going to touch that a lot. And I've seen that again in several companies. Oh, no, we shouldn't challenge outsourcing too much. But when you start talking about empowering developers, empowering the teams, the importance of the teams understanding the values of the company, the purpose, buying into the vision, understanding the strategy, to exercise their autonomy, to make really good decisions about what needs to be done, and long-term developing these people. You start to understand, oh, wait a minute, this doesn't resonate really well with our strategy to just outsource that to someone else. Are we supposed to develop others, people? So this is just a learning that, yeah, you're probably going to insource if you have a lot of your business outsourced. Outsourcing can be good, but if you believe that, well, it's not our core competency to be delivering software, you probably fooled yourself. And this means that the chapter concept of Spotify, which I have been kind of critical against, because it might lead to high specialization, that you have a back-end chapter, a front-end chapter, and wait a minute, we want T-shaped generalists in Agile, right? Well, if you really need to recruit an insource, if you really need to establish an engineering culture that you have forgotten through outsourcing or just never devoted enough time to, you might need chapters like community of practices. This can really help you build this engineering culture and competence. At Spotify, we even took it one step further and had the manager be as a chapter lead who is leading these developers and can recruit and be responsible full-time really for building people, developing people and building this engineering culture together with them. And this means that we have to develop much more of a servant leader style. Instead of having the leader as an expert who will solve the problems, so your go-to person, no, it's a catalyst. You solve people by developing others, solve problems by developing people's commitments and capabilities. And this is also something you need to be investing in early on in your agile transformation, to give the leader a clear idea on what does my new role look like. Using the POTLAC, the squad trio for holistic squad support, this is one of the most underutilized things of the Spotify model. In agile transformations, you have a scrum master, a manager, a product owner, all new in the roles. They can't understand. They start squabbling about who should do what. Should you call the meeting? They often don't even have a platform to talk about. They don't understand how their responsibilities are different. Just getting them together with the goal of saying, you are in charge of supporting the holistic delivery of this squad, their well-being, their health, their performance of delivering product, making sure the right people are on it. But it's a shared responsibility where you all have different perspectives, but talk every week, more often together, on how can we together best serve this squad. This is what really helped give purpose to engineering managers in our transformation, and can really open up a lot of possibilities where there's previously been confusion in agile transformation. So lastly, a little bit on alignment and strategy. I think that's key to really enabling this autonomy and outcome focus that I've been talking about, is to have lean portfolio management. And this is one part of lean portfolio management, that you, instead of projects, you try to have more broadly, not that detailed initiatives, leading to maybe a bunch of not so detailed and short epics leading to some stories. And then you, in order to still align, you have some meetings. We would have weekly syncs with the Scrum Master and the product owner in the tribe every week, and the product owner tribe lead and IT tribe lead. Then the product owner tribe lead and IT tribe lead would be in a weekly sync with all the other PO and IT tribe leads and the CIO, making sure that information is transparently flowing both ways every week at least, and the possibility to escalate and align and see if we have coordination issues. I also try to illustrate this by there are several orphan white stories and some epics and initiatives, and increasing autonomy means that the more orphans, the more white start spreading. Maybe in the beginning you have as a security, as a safety in top management that, okay, we can steer by almost every story is connected to an epic, is connected to an initiative, is connected to a must win that we have decided. So we still have control, but then you start dialing that knob up and releasing more and more of the control, so to speak. And this also, we were able to start with using lean-agile budgeting, where we set the capacity, the number of squads, which is very slow to adjust. And we actually turned out, when you study the data, we didn't like increase or decrease the IT a lot. So this is really easy to get to. We just set a fixed budget for each tribe. We can maybe change it 2 times a year, 4 times a year, a little bit up and down. And then the product content, what they actually deliver, that's up to them. And we steer that by having business people in the tribe to make sure that. Using OKRs, objectives and key results, for aligned autonomy, which means that you have goals that are now focused on outcomes, not features and projects and so on. And these are changed quarterly in dialogue with good ideas coming out from all levels of the organization. This is also hitting a sweet spot between alignment through goals and objectives that are as loose as possible, but following them up with key metrics, and content, how to actually do it, bets, hypotheses on how to reach these goals. You can leave that up to the squads and the team and the tribes. And we would use planning season to align this. So borrowed from SAFE, pre-planning a week before the big room planning, product owners, scrum masters, architects, just getting a feel for what do we need to prepare in order for the big room planning to be successful. Then everyone would meet for a couple of days, post-planning to figure out, okay, how do we need to adjust market plans and so on. And then at the end of it, then we will start the iterations and have a big demo at the end. And this is where what the big room planning looked like in the beginning. It was just the 4 or 5 tribes in front end and back end. But then we had tribes and squads also in marketing that started to take part of it. And then part of networks, and this became like a vortex, like a machine for the transformation. That's something really important, where all the C-level people are involved in planning and doing things together. Everything. Whenever I come to someone and want something done in the organization, they bring it up in planning, in the big room planning, or sorry, we didn't get to that in our big room planning. And this created a curiosity in the rest of the organization. This seems to be where all the decisions are being made. I have to get in there. So people started, inventing on the business side. We are also a tribe because we want to sit at the table. And all of a sudden, more and more and more, until we had a one-day event with like 60 or 70 squads in the same time, representatives from them in a big room, just aligning everything with the rest of the organization and so on, going out into breakout rooms to do their respective planning in tribes and coming back to align several times during the day. And you shouldn't underestimate the social relationships and the clarity in, we have squads with missions, tribes with missions. I know exactly who to talk to, and I get a face to them and I get the relation with them because we meet regularly. and then putting it all up on the big brown paper in the end. So it was a very fast-paced presentation. Hope we got some lessons out of it. How did it go? Well, last cycle time was reduced from 170 to 27 days. The time spent on development, we used to have a lot of coordination roles, remember, a lot of overhead, increased from 25 to 48%. And the overhead in terms of what people were working on reduced from 41% to 32%. But my proudest moment or achievement for all of us in this was the employee engagement index for IT's most effective increased from only 22%, which was bottom of Telenor Group, to 58% during these 2 years, which was top of the entire organization. So the headquarters started paying an interest. What have you been doing? And the CIO that had been part of the running this transformation became the global agile transformation lead to take this out to the rest of the world in the 9 business units in Asia and the Nordics. Also, a lot of companies came visiting, and out of all the customers we have in the Nordics, Telenor Sweden has the strongest momentum in their digital transformation. We even struggle to find comparable companies in Europe, and people were lined up to come and visit Telenor and see how they've established these things. Okay, sorry, that was rushed, but thank you for your attention. I don't know if there's time for questions, but you have my contact information. I'm happy to jump on a call or answer your emails if I have time.
Thank you so much, Joakim. We can leave this run for a short while. I just needed to say that the next panel discussion is starting at 3:15, so in about 15 minutes. There's a lot that you just talked about. I'm gonna have to rewatch it again. There's a lot. I'm gonna have to take the book list out of
Sorry,
about 6 books in there, dig them all out and find out which they are. That's super interesting. But 2 years is really impressive for that kind of a change. So they must really have wanted the change.
Yeah,
For it to take that kind of, it must really be a kind of like, let's do this, which is great. So yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna have to go, but I can leave the session up if you. I don't know if you want to take a question or two from through the session there, because the next thing's on the stage anyway. So we can leave it at that. But thank you very much, Joakim. That was great. Like I said, the recording will go up and we can check all the books and stuff like that. Now the other feedback that has to be given is you have the best setup, Rick. Man, nobody else did it as well as you did. They were the comments were going, and on Twitter, like I said, yes, this and move me around, and I'm going to go here. Watch me get smaller, and I'm going to get invisible. It was brilliant.
Thank you.
But as you said to me, it only works on a Mac.
yeah. Sorry, but they have plans to be available on PC. I hope it's soon.
Okay, thanks a lot, Joakim. And
yeah, I actually have another thing I need to run to as well. So, but if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. Set something up. Great. I'll be happy to. Yeah. Super. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you again. Hopefully, see you for real again.
I hope
Take care. Okay, guys. Thanks.